Hey guys, I discovered something pretty cool and I'm going to share it with you. It's called Gamebox Monthly. It's really cool, and let me tell you why. You get indie tabletop games sent to your door every single month. Games that you can play with other humans that are sitting next to you. You know what I mean? Like your original social network. It gets us out of our phones and out of our computers and out of everything else that takes us away from connecting with other human beings. What I love about Gamebox Monthly is you get these games, you get to open up and find new ways to connect. Isn't that what we're all looking for? Aren't you so sick of not being present? So you can get a present from Gamebox Monthly, and that can be your present. That's not even making sense, but I like it, and I'm going to go with it. So go to GameboxMonthly.com and rediscover social.
Krista! Hey, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Really? Because you seem a little...
I said I'm fine.
Okay, well, we all love you, so if you need to talk, we're...
She's fine. She's fine.
I'm fine. Hey guys, it's Krista Allen, and you're listening to I'm Fine with me, Krista Allen. I'm super excited about my guest today and the book that we're doing. So we're going to dive into The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. I've never understood why people just have an initial at the beginning of their name. I wonder if it's Michael or something. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the book we're doing is The Road Less Traveled, and it's pretty cool. It's an old school book. And it's basically talking about it. It breaks everything down into four different things. It's divided into 4 parts: discipline, love, religion, and grace. We're going to get into all of that stuff, but it's really cool. And my friend Erica Rhodes is the one that suggested it. She's a comedian and an actress, and she has this amazing comedy night called Nightlight Comedy Show at Open Space. It's the last Monday of every month. You can go see really funny people and laugh and have fun. Hi, Erica.
Hi, Krista. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. This is going to be a fun one. I remember this book on the shelf when I was a little girl. It was sandwiched between like The Joy of Sex and I'm Okay, You're Okay. That was what
Wait, that your parents had all
my
those?
mom, yeah. She had The Road Less Traveled, The Joy of Sex, and I'm Okay, You're Okay.
Oh, wow.
I never read The Road Less Traveled or I'm Okay, You're Okay.
But
I looked at the pictures. Do you know what book that is, The Joy of Sex?
No.
It's like a hippie book of how to have sex, but I was always fascinated. And the pictures had like hairy women, their armpits were hairy, and
all natural.
All natural. It's a hippie book for anybody that knows. I just remember looking at it, being fascinated.
Why does it have to say the joy of sex?
Because
I guess it's a take on the joy of cooking. Wasn't that a big book?
Unless The Joy of Cooking came after The Joy of Sex, which is that's a loaded sexual thing because it came after.
Here we go.
See what I do?
Here we go.
I know. I'm 12. What can I say? So stupid. Sorry, guys. So in this book, basically it's Hucky says life is difficult, mainly because the process of confronting and solving problems is painful. And it said the benefit that results may be pleasurable, but the process is painful. And since life poses an endless series of problems, life can be painful. So he says painful like 16 times in this one. It's freaking painful. And it's interesting. But then he goes into like talking about like meeting and solving the problems is what you do. And obviously, yes, that is the goal for all of us in life, is to meet and solve these problems that we are faced with, I guess. Like it talks about, for instance, okay, so Erica came over and I have this awesome Fit Vine wine they send over to me. And I was like, do you want a glass of wine? She's like, I don't know. I was like, come on, have a glass of wine.
Peer pressure.
I know, because it's fantastic. But they talk about like what we do as humans, which is procrastinate, or we drink alcohol, or we gamble, or we do all these crazy things to avoid facing the problems in our lives, thinking that they're just going to go away, and then they multiply, and then we're miserable. And I guess that's the painful part.
Yeah. I mean, the painful part is not doing the things that will solve the problems that will make you happy.
Right. But we do that anyway. Like everybody does that. Like, I'm on this whole thing right now where all I want to do is find solution. I just want to find solutions to any problem that's going on, make it better, think better, be more positive, and not stay stuck. But where I came from from my mom, or from my family, nobody dealt with emotions, and nobody. It was always projected outwards at everybody. It was everybody else's fault. You know what I mean?
I think there's a whole chapter about that, about how like your parents really do influence how you deal with problems, and it has a whole description about parents who don't talk about issues.
Right.
Like my parents also kind of avoided difficult topics. Like they never talked about money. They never talked about sex. Like they never they just didn't want to talk about really difficult things.
Because somehow, and that is also the age, but now.
Yeah, now that's probably too much. Now they're probably like.
Now it's like, talk about your feelings, talk about, talk about this. My mom to this day, if I want to talk about anything that has to do with my childhood that was quote unquote painful, she's like, okay, we're not going to rehash this. No, we're not going to do it. And I'm like, but, and it's funny because growing up like that, you start to think that it's not okay to feel or you think that the world is the problem and that there's nothing wrong with you, but that everything else is the problem. And then you start to like outwardly project that everything else is wrong in your life because of outside forces. Right. And so in this book, he's basically saying, the key to learning to deal constructively with our problems lies in a system of discipline comprised of 4 tools. The first one, I know, it's so crazy. The first one is delaying gratification. It says scheduling the pain and pleasures of life so as to enhance the pleasure by meeting and experience the pain first and getting it over with. So does that make any sense to you? Delaying gratification?
Yeah, it means doing the things that are hard first, like not drinking the wine that we're drinking right now, but
cheers,
paying our phone bill or something.
Doing something that doesn't delaying gratification of the excitement and doing the harder things first and just getting it done.
Yeah, like I realize, I think my whole career is just procrastinating.
Yeah, me too.
Doing things that I don't want to do.
I do that too.
I never clean my apartment, and now I'm just like, oh, every time I'm supposed to clean my apartment, I have a show. So, can't do that now.
Right. One of the best ways to book a show is to schedule cleaning your apartment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. But do you look at things, because this is one of the things I think he kind of touches on, is taking things in increments. So instead of taking on the entire apartment,
right?
Like you just start doing.
Yeah, I've done that. I swear I have. I think I might have some sort of ADHD type thing, because I feel like it's not about whether I want to. Like I feel like I physically can't do it.
Right.
It's really weird. It's like I don't know where to begin. Then I get overwhelmed. Then I get distracted by something. Then I go back. Then I'm like, I don't know where to begin. Like I go in circles like that. You know, and then I just get overwhelmed. And then I'm like, that's it. I'm just not going to do any of it.
Have you been like that your whole life?
Yeah.
Me too.
You have?
But did you have, were your parents, were they really... Did you have to keep your room clean?
Not really.
Me either. So I learned exactly what I still do. And I have a son, and he has the same issues I do, because as he was growing up, I had assistants and nannies and housekeepers and people helping me as a single mom. But I definitely, I used what I had in order to make our lives easier, really mine. Right. So instead of having to clean the house and do certain things, my son Jake always had things done for him.
Right.
Always. And to this day, we both laugh about it. I'm always like, I'm so sorry I did this to you, because he's a slob. He's just he's like, it's everywhere. But it is instilled by us. And then we think we can't do it Which
I know
is
the only time we ever had to clean our rooms was if the maid was coming, like if the cleaning lady
isn't
was
that
coming.
the weirdest thing?
Yeah.
Like you have to.
I can't believe I just called her a maid. Well, that sounds like the 1800s. Yeah, like the cleaning lady. But,
the cleaning lady.
But she wouldn't clean really. My mom just kind of kept her around because she felt bad for her. And so she like didn't really do anything. She just kind of moved things around the house.
Oh my God.
And, but we always had to clean before she got there.
That's like going, I have to lose 10 pounds before I go to the gym.
Yeah, before I go to the gym. Actually, I think that's one reason sometimes people don't go to the gym. They're like, I'm too embarrassed to go.
Because they want to
lose weight first before.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I've done that before. I've been like, I'm not in shape. I'm not going to go till I get in shape. So
right, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about procrastination
But
for
one
me.
time I remember my mom, like I didn't clean my room and my mom took all the stuff that I had on the floor and put it in garbage bags and then put it in the basement of her house, like to prove a point. Like that was her way of disciplining me, which was so dramatic.
Oh my God.
So then I went into her room and put all of her stuff that was on the ground in plastic bags and put that in the basement.
And you said, I'll show you.
Yeah, it was a huge fight. It was like,
oh
so
my
that's
God,
all I remember.
that's
Like that was the
awesome.
only discipline I remember.
I think that's what it is, though. I think when our parents don't teach us stuff, which is what he's talking about, we kind of carry that on, and then the cycle continues.
Yeah.
Like whether that's emotionally or just like cleaning stuff. But I am terrible at it. Like whatever it is, like I never clean faster than if somebody is coming over.
Oh yeah,
like it could be
like you can do it for someone else, but you can't do it for yourself.
Right. I feel like is that like codependent?
I don't think it's that. I think it's
because I've been told I'm codependent.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I've
by
actually
a professional or
been
by a
I've been diagnosed.
boyfriend?
Yeah,
I've been officially diagnosed by my
exactly
emotionally unavailable boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly. I probably have, but I think there's definitely like a codependency of like making sure that everything is okay for other people, just to make sure. Like last night, my place
your
was
place
a little
is
messier.
really clean right now.
Right, but that's why all my mail is over there, and you know,
it looks very organized.
Thanks.
Like that's one thing is like I don't know where to put things. Like I don't know how to organize.
Me either.
Yeah.
I have to hire people to do that, or like ask friends actually to come over and help me out.
Yeah,
because it's a big deal. But in all of this, I mean, there's all. What was your favorite part about this book? Like you've read this book like so many times, right?
Yeah, and then I just realized I don't remember anything anymore. I underlined a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, because
I like this line. If being loved is your goal, you will fail to achieve it. The only way to be assured of being loved is to be a person worthy of love.
Well, yeah. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But you know, that's a funny thing though, because, you know, a lot of times everybody has like their own thoughts, right? Everybody has their own expectations of what love is.
Yeah.
And it's different to everybody. And then are you in a relationship right now?
Not really, no.
You're just dating?
I've been sort of in and out of seeing somebody.
Really?
Yeah.
The same person, just in and out?
Same person, yeah.
So it's not going great.
It's challenging.
Yeah. Why is it the most challenging?
Because we're I don't think we're compatible. We're just like, I'm super sensitive and he's not as sensitive.
Right.
You know, I'm like, I have like trouble sleep. Like I'm an insomniac. He like goes to bed really early. Like really basic things are like
the fundamental issues.
We're like basically opposites in every way.
Sometimes they say that opposites can attract.
He's like OCD. I'm totally disorganized.
Yeah.
He's like really like needs things in like
order.
He needs order. He needs to plan things ahead. I need to like be free to change things around.
But do you feel like you guys are how long have you guys been on and off?
Like over a year.
See, so I wonder, like sometimes I wonder like if we bring stuff into our lives, if we bring things into our lives to show us something else, you know what I mean? So he's the opposite of you. And it's almost being okay with who that person is without having to change that person or needing them to fit whatever it is. And so both sides, it's been my number one relationship thing my whole life is having my own expectation of what love is and thinking I'm great.
Yeah.
It's the other person that's the issue, you know?
Right.
And really when I look at it, and I had to really kind of, you know, that's the thing. Like once you break up with somebody, it's great because you really get to know yourself, but then you really get to know yourself. And you're like, oh
You
God.
have such great vocal range. This went from to get to know yourself.
So yes, it's like this thing. And I think I'm always striving to like be.
Are you single right now? Or
I'm dating somebody right now.
How long have you been dating?
We've been dating a little over a year. And it's great. You know, it's great. I've learned so much, but it's a lot of kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Two opposite ways of thinking. I'm very emotional.
Right.
He's very logical.
Yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And, you know, it's tough, but it's made, I had a choice. I could either focus on all of the things that weren't working, or I could start to focus on all the great freaking things about this person. And once I did that, more of those great things kept happening and the other things stopped because it wasn't in my focus anymore.
Right.
And that to me is like that line that you just read, being worthy, like knowing that I'm worthy. I don't need anybody to change in order for me to be in a relationship, but maybe like I'm not going to break if I bend a little bit. And I think in terms of what I believe, my whole life, it's caused so many problems in relationships because I would go into big insecurities or get so incredibly emotional or paranoid or whatever it is and thinking, you know, this is going to happen or whatever. And being with somebody that doesn't share the same emotional capacity, I guess, has made me have to be more resourceful on my own instead of needing somebody to be there.
Yeah.
I just like that he is. And, you know, and there's definitely there's certain things I'd love that would change, but instead of looking at him, I look at me and go, okay, what can I change? What can I do to be better and better? Because then those things don't even bother me. And the more I do that, the more good shit comes in.
Right.
And it doesn't bother me as bad. Trust me, I still get emotional. I'm still a huge baby. What does your boyfriend, the guy do? I was going to say boyfriend. What is your
entertainment stuff?
Yeah. Does he go out of town or anything ever?
Sometimes, yeah.
Do you flip out when he goes out of town?
No. I'm like, yay. No, just kidding.
Really?
You're like, I also need a lot more space. Like he likes spending more time together, and I like, you know, I like need a lot of alone time to recuperate and be creative, and like, for me, that's really important. That's like the other thing, because like he likes spending a lot of time together, and I'm, you know, we're just different. Yeah. Pretty much in every way.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. I'm learning to create more stuff on my own. And I used to need to just always be there and do stuff for people. But then again, I've been a mom. I've been a single mom. And that was always a big thing too. Right. I was like, I think I've developed this thing of just needing to be there for somebody. Yeah. But then.
Are you like maternal with a guy too? Like, yeah. Because I'm not like that at all.
Yeah, I am. Do you have animals?
No.
You don't?
No.
Do you want one?
No.
You don't want kids?
Oh, kids, but those aren't animals.
They can be. No.
Like, you don't have any animals? Do you want kids?
I'm asking a million questions.
I always thought I would have kids. Like, I always thought I wanted them, but I'm not going to, like, force it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no.
I want them with the right person.
Of course. Yeah, you don't want them with the wrong person.
No.
It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. But but that's the thing. It's like.
Do you have animals?
I do.
Where?
They're at my guy's house right now, so that it's quiet here.
Oh, nice. What are they?
One is a beagle. His name is Jack. He's super cute. He's a pocket beagle, so he's kind of small and super cute. And the other is a puggle, and
cute.
his name is Jake. And
wow, you have such like normal names for your animals.
Well, the puggle is my guy's dog.
Okay.
Whose name is Jake, and my son is also named Jake.
Wait, there's 3 Jakes?
So, well, and my producer is also Jake. So there's
Oh
a lot
my
of Jakes in my
God.
life. It's funny.
So if you say Jake, the dog comes, the producer
Yeah,
comes,
everybody-
everybody comes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
Or if the dog is doing something like, Jake, stop. Now it's a joke because my son will be like, I'm not doing anything. It never gets old, by the way.
How old is your son?
He's 20.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So he's an adult.
Yeah, he's a full-on adult. He
Yeah.
lives on his own. I just
Aw.
moved into this little place. He has his own place.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like all of these things, like even with all of these books and stuff and all of the stuff that I'm doing, it's really interesting because all of this stuff as a mom, I get to take this chapter in parenting, which is so important for me because I can look at it and I can think of a million things that I would have done differently as when he was growing up.
Yeah.
But it's the cool thing now that I am able to be as solid as I am and watch him. He's like the most amazing kid and like
Aw.
literally my favorite person on the planet.
Oh, that's so great
And
to have that relationship.
It's really, really cool. And, you know, he's like learning all this stuff too. And he's kind of just based on what I am teaching without beating him over the head with a self-help book. You know, I just take little bits and pieces like we all do for like in anything.
You're like, I started this podcast for my son so I can subliminally send him little nuggets of wisdom.
Did you listen to my podcast?
Yes, we were talking about some interesting stuff.
You should totally check it out. But the Road Less Traveled has been around forever. It has literally been around. It's been around for so long. It's one of the original self-help books, but it all holds true. And it's from a very psychological, you know, point of view. There's not really a lot of spirituality, if you will.
I think it's like, like I was looking through it again. I was like, oh, I realize it's sort of like anti like psychiatrists and medicine and stuff, you know, so it doesn't cover like everything. Like if you have some sort of, I guess he talks briefly about having personality disorders or whatever, but I think he was basically saying like, if you use these tools, like I feel like it would be more, what's that kind of therapy where it's like gives you exercises to do? Like I feel like he'd be into that.
Like
kind of method.
EFT, the emotional freedom technique where you tap yourself?
No, that's
something
the
totally
opposite
different.
of
Yeah.
what
You're like, no.
No, it's like you know, it's more action based.
Cognitive?
Yeah,
okay.
cognitive.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what this book is. It's just sort of like it's all about the doing of things, not thinking or like.
Well, but that's where we get in the most trouble is when we're thinking about everything. So like he talks about with the personality disorders, if you label yourself that you have this, then, which I do constantly. I'm always like, I have ADHD. I have dyslexia. And every time I focus on it more, the more I'm like.
You're like, I definitely.
I am so ADHD. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's true. He talks about procrastination, which is what we were talking about before, which is like the biggest thing. So he's basically suffer now, enjoy later, and stop procrastination. He's talking about accepting responsibilities, and he talks about this is when he talks about the neuroses and character disorder, and talks about when one ends up blaming the world for their problems, then they are basically refusing to assume responsibility for their own problems. They're trying to escape from their freedom. And it's like that interesting thing based on my family life and anybody's. I bet you every single person has somebody in their life that is like that.
Yeah.
And we learn from it. Do you tend to like get through shit pretty quick, or do you kind of stay in it, and do you do blame stuff? Or does it depend on the situation?
I think it depends on the situation, but I do think that I'm not an addictive personality, but I think I tend to kind of go to work stuff, like what I was saying before, which is like,
you're super work focused right now, though.
Yeah, I'm like work focused, but then I like ignore a lot of foundation stuff.
Right.
You know, like ignore my, you know, where I live, like my living is always totally disorganized. My car is a mess, you know, like things like that, where it's like, I really should. I'm always like, I feel like I would feel a lot better if I took care of
course you would,
like the basic little things. I'm better at the bigger picture.
So in this book, like when you go through this book and you see it, can you apply these techniques that he kind of walks through. And like, I always think of things in terms of challenges. So not like challenge, like, oh, it's going to be so hard, but I want to give myself a challenge.
Yeah.
So if I go, okay, for the next week, I'm going to do this. Unless I have a support group around me, and it's like literally you and I are texting or calling every day saying, what did you pick up today?
Yeah.
I'll forget because all these other things start to happen around me. And then I'm like, oh, I'll deal with it later.
Right.
But it's staying disciplined, which is what he's talking about, is like being disciplined to do all of those things. And it's where all of us fall short. It's like sometimes the easiest thing is just doing it.
Right.
And like making the decision, because then it gets really overwhelming. And then we start to blame other things. Like how many times have you had everything is completely messy? You're trying to make room on your desk or your coffee table and your water spills, and then you blame the book that knocked it over. You're like, damn it. It's not about, instead of stopping and going, oh, I need to clean this off.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's always something. And I've been so guilty of that. I do it all the time. I still try to work on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I tend to blame myself for like everything, which is like probably also bad. Like
I do too.
You should do like sort of, you should blame the world for some things.
Right.
You should
That's
be like,
right.
don't take all of it on yourself.
I feel like, do you do anything with law of attraction?
I feel like I used to be more into it. I've never actually read the book.
Yeah, there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
There's a ton of books. It's basically how you think creates your reality.
Yeah. No, I believe that to a point.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was a lot more in tune with it when I was younger. Like, I feel like when I was younger, I was like really believed in it. And then as I got older, like with more challenges, I was like, this is bullshit, like
because you started believing in the challenges,
Yeah.
and then it became a bigger thing. I've been back and forth on a self-help journey for as long as I can remember. Like, I mean, as really right before my son was born. So he's 20. So
yeah.
And even before then, I was still dabbling. It still made me, I knew something spoke to me in some weird way. Like there's a better way to live. And it's funny because as many books as I've read, I'm still going through and trying to figure out how to do things. And each time I do a different book on the show, I'm so inspired. And then I forget. And then I'll just be, and then I just completely, and I'm like, wait.
Yeah, when I picked up this book, I totally forgot everything, to be honest. And I feel like a lot of it's kind of challenging. Like I actually look at it and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't applied any of this actually. I really need to reread it because I don't even remember it.
Do you remember, let's see, I sent you, okay. So
you sent me the notes about it,
which
was helpful. It's just like, I remember feeling like a lot more, like when I read it the first time, I feel like I was a lot more like, oh yeah, I do that. Yeah, I totally relate to that. Now I'm looking at it being like, oh my God, my life's a mess.
Right. You're like, this is making me feel worse.
Like I used to think I was disciplined, but now I'm kind of like, I think I'm disciplined at
avoiding.
Selectively disciplined. I'm really disciplined at things I care about and then not disciplined.
But then what's better than like getting your shit together? Nothing. You know what I mean? And then everything else falls into place. And it's funny because this book, what I got from this book is everything about it is getting organized, I guess, with every side of your life, which would be discipline, love, religion, and grace.
What was the grace one? I forget what you said about that.
Grace and religion kind of go together.
Okay.
So, and I'm not a religious person. I think definitely more on the spiritual path than religious. Like I'm not any certain religion.
Yeah.
But I embrace everybody's decisions or whatever it is. There's something beautiful in all of it. But so as far as the grace, he says so in the book, he makes this complete exit from the rational and practical stuff that he had written about. And he talks about the unconscious mind, which is kind of cool, and how it guides us into a spiritually developed individual. meaning it's the subconscious, right? It's all the shit that we're not thinking with our brain.
Right.
It's the stuff that's just there. Like when you have a feeling and you're like, oh, this feels right, or this doesn't feel right, or whatever that is. And he says, if only we learn to open up and listen to that wisdom, the synchronicity of the world, then serendipity falls into place. And how laziness is the actual sin of all the world, which is being lazy with that discipline and our thoughts. And it makes us, when we are lazy and we are going against all that stuff, it makes us not want to grow up. We get stuck and we stay stagnant in our old belief system. And the key to life is that we are constantly expanding. We are constantly growing. And if you're not, then just give up. You know what I mean? Because unless you're like constantly working to better yourself, you get stuck and you stay like, I've been one of those people, and I have people in my life, and there are certain things in my life that I am so lazy on, and I'm stuck as a kid in that mentality. And that's what he's talking about. And the grace part goes into, he talks about the collective consciousness, which is kind of deep because this whole book is all very logical. And then he hits this religion and grace thing and it goes really deep. And so the collective consciousness of everybody around us and how everybody else is thinking and how he's saying that God wants us to actually be him. My theory on that is we are God. We are all one. We all are already a piece of that. Yeah. And once we recognize that's why we're here, is to experience life in contrast, to see things that are like, you know, something doesn't feel good. Well, now you know what you don't want.
Right.
Now you know what you want. And what you want is what feels good. And the reason it feels bad is because you want something different.
Right.
And that's kind of what he's talking about in the grace part of being graceful with acknowledging the contrast in life and looking at it from a place of, I'm not going to blame life for this. I'm going to see that this doesn't feel good and it's something that I want to change in myself. And it can go all from anything, from thinking of the way you think, the stuff that your parents taught you, learning a different language, I guess, or talking to yourself in a different language. Like, what is the biggest like thing, like, you know, like with my family, like with my mom, it was always, everybody was scary. Like my mom hated everyone.
Really?
And so, but she was super nice to everyone, but she shit talked everyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I learned that people can't be trusted, because my mom, who was my role model, she didn't realize she was doing this. And that probably came from her parents. And you know what I mean? But she would say something. I remember one time I came home from, I was probably in 7th grade or 6th grade, and I had just made the cheerleading squad. And I was so excited, but the girls were being kind of mean to me, the older girls. And I was like,
where'd you grow up?
In Texas. I lived in Texas. And
where in Texas?
That in that specific place, it was in Houston.
I was just in Houston.
That's right. When you told me that, you were doing a show out there, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, I want to come. But the girls were being like, they weren't being very nice to me. And I came home and I told my mom, thinking I was going to get this wise advice from my mom that would be so great. And she literally told me, you go to that girl, you go up to this girl's name. Her name was Paula. She goes, you go up to Paula and you just tell her mom's a fat cow. That's what you tell her. Did it?
Whoa.
And I was like, of course I didn't do that. But I was like, how does that solve anything? And I'll get my butt kicked. And I just can't even imagine. And I remember thinking, that's the advice my mom gave. But then when my mom saw this girl's mom, a couple of days later, she was like, oh, hey, you look great. And I remember thinking, okay, that's interesting. But I carried a fear of like a social anxiety most of my life, not because of that moment, but because these are things that I learned as a child, because my mom didn't know any better. It couldn't have felt good to her to be like that. But at the same time, I think she thought she was trying to make me tougher, because I was kind of a pussy. Like I was like, definitely, I was super shy and all kinds of stuff. But the thing was there was like, I think that was her way of going, it's kind of like the dad that says, just punch him in the face.
Yeah.
But my mom was saying, do it with words and really nasty words.
Yeah.
But to my mom, that was the right thing to do.
Right.
So she's teaching me that. And that is something that I learned and something that stayed with me until I was able to rewrite it and go, oh, of course people aren't scary. Like, and of course people can be trusted. But the running theme in my life has been people have come in that have not been super faithful and not been very loyal because I had this like running belief system. And that is like that subconscious, or what he was talking about, the unconscious part of me that doesn't think. Yeah. But once you realize, oh, I am thinking it, things start to change. Do you have anything like that? Do you have anything that like, I mean, nothing, it's, you know what I mean? Like, like something where you took from things that your parents taught you that you didn't even realize was like, oh, wait, that's just something they learned too. And now I'm stuck with it and you get to change it.
It's funny. I feel like my mom did the opposite, where like I think it is a nice trait, but in some ways it also has gotten me in situations that aren't great, where it's like, everybody's good, it was almost like the opposite. Like trust everyone's trustworthy, everyone has a good side. Like she loves people, she loves like really eccentric, weird people. Like she accepts everyone and she's not judgmental, but
that's
almost
so sweet.
But almost to a fault, you know, where it's like, oh my God, like she's nice to everyone, but also like, then there have been times in my life where I feel like I've trusted the wrong people or gotten in situations where it's like I give someone the benefit of the doubt when I shouldn't have.
There's like a happy medium. Your mom is on one side.
She's a little
my mom's
like
on
idealistic.
The other.
Yeah. It's a little naive.
But do you because I'm much more like that because of the way that my mom was with me. It didn't feel right. So I went to the opposite extreme and got equally probably let down. Just like, So there's that middle part. There's like trusting your gut and trusting, when you meet somebody and you just know they may be a little off, or their energy's a little off, or you meet a girl or a guy and you're having a talk and you can just tell that they're not, they may have ulterior motives, or there's something going on, but you don't act on it because you're like, oh, it's fine. I've done that with so many people.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember. I just had this memory also of one time, I forget what the situation was, but I felt like my mom gave me advice that was like putting their feelings first, which is, and I wish I could remember what the situation was, but it was something like, well, don't upset them. And I remember being like, well, what about my feelings are the ones that are hurt right now? Like, why are you telling me to worry about a person you don't even know?
Right.
And so I think I am a little bit of like a people pleaser. Like I want everyone to like
feel
like good around me.
Like your feelings
at the expense of myself sometimes.
I do that in relationships a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's like a lesson somewhere in there. The kid in you is like, my feelings don't matter as much. Yeah. So, okay, I need to care about other people. Through this whole book, he's basically I think he talks about that specific, like not specifically, but the energy of that in the parenting chapter. Yeah. And how what we do as parents is so important, and how it literally shapes and molds the rest of our life. And then, or you start going to therapy, or you read a really good book that like triggers something in you, just like we're having this conversation, and you're like, oh, that's such an easy thing to go back to. Yeah. And it's such an easy thing to like think about and go, oh.
Yeah, it's not like a bad, like it's like, I think one chapter he talks about the main thing is that you feel loved as a child. And I definitely felt very loved as a kid.
Right.
And I think that is the most important thing. But it's like parents just, there's no way to not mess up here and there,
Oh, God,
so it's
no.
like, I feel like, there are some things where you're like, oh, that's why I'm like that. But it doesn't mean that they're bad people, or they, Yeah. It's like you can have good intentions and still fuck up your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Just put another dollar in the therapy jar. Yeah. That is the motto of all parents. Just put another dollar in the therapy jar. That's it.
Do you do therapy or?
I don't really. I've done therapy. I have gone through so many different levels of trying to figure shit out in my life. It's ridiculous. I've done therapy. I've done stuff. And what I realized for myself is therapy wasn't as effective as really more law of attraction. And instead of beating the drum of the same story and continuing to tell the same story, I realized I was getting more of the same thing.
Right.
When I started to tell a better story and try to create my life in a different way and stop victimizing myself so much.
Yeah.
Because for most of my life, I was a consummate victim. I didn't realize it, but I was constantly, and I'm still sensitive.
Yeah.
You know, but I beat the crap out of myself is what I would do.
Right.
And honestly, I still do that too.
Yeah, I do that.
But I do it in a healthier way, I guess.
Yeah.
Instead of like, it's more of a velvet hammer as opposed to like a steel one.
Right.
You know, so it's I'm getting better and better, and that's all we can hope for in this world.
That's a huge thing, I think, if you can beat yourself up less.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out how to not do that.
Yeah. It's like, you know, it's like that, you know, you can never get anything wrong in life. And then you'll also never get it right.
Right.
You know, like it's this funny thing, but you just keep trying. And all of these books, like this book inspired so many self-help books. Everything is still so relevant.
Yeah.
And it was written, like 30 years ago or something like that?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. It is. Like it's gotta be. Like it's one of the first self-help books, and it's still so relevant.
Right.
And it's really cool because he breaks down he says, assessment of the needs of another is an act of responsibility that can be executed wisely only when one person operates out of genuine love, which is kind of interesting because sometimes you get into these situations where you want both people to be like acting out of a loving place.
Yeah.
And you can sometimes shift people out of a place where they are just by not blaming them and making them super wrong. Because that's I think where a lot of us go wrong in like relationships, whether they're friends or whatever, is we start to get really defensive and think that, you know, if somebody's saying something, it's a direct hit.
Right.
And you know what they say? They say that the only time that you're offended the only way you can get offended is if you identify with it.
Right.
And so that's what defensive is like, you're like, no, I'm not. No, I didn't do that. No, I'm not. Instead of, shit, I totally did that.
Right.
It feels so much better. And I think that's kind of like, in a sense, what he's talking about in that is when somebody's coming at you with love, generally, if I'm telling you did something, depending on how I say it, you're going to listen. You may go, I don't think so. But later on, you may go, yeah, okay, I did. Or you just turn it around and twist it. There's a lot of twisters out there too.
Yeah.
Do you have twisters?
You mean other people doing it? Or, well, I don't know what you mean exactly.
Like,
what do you mean?
When I say twisters, people that twist stuff around on you. You know what I mean? Like you'll say something, they're like, and then all of a sudden you're apologizing.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, but wait, I was just saying. They're like, the next thing you know, you're like, I'm so sorry. What did I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened. That was like a lifelong relationship lesson for me because I would pick a lot of people like that, and then realize, you know, I don't know. Then I realized that's just not the right person, or there's some lesson to learn in it, I guess. I really liked it. I mean, I love that this is such an old book, and I love that it stands up so much. They talk about lying too. It says, insofar as the nature of the challenge is legitimate, and it usually is, lying, even white lies, is an attempt to circumvent legitimate suffering. Because you're obviously doing yourself a huge disservice and giving all of your power away when you lie. But at the same time, you're either trying to make someone else feel better by a little white lie, or you're, you can't save your ass and your face at the same time. So lies are like that. It's like, you either admit to it or you don't, and whatever. I spent a big portion of my childhood just making up stories because it was so it was more fun than what my life was. So I was like, yeah, I
feel like all kids do that at some point.
Totally.
Don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. They're using their imagination.
Yeah. And then it trickles into other things. But I guess anytime anybody makes you like feel super shameful for any of this stuff, that's when the problem like comes up.
Yeah.
And in this book, he's basically, what he's saying in this whole book in the nutshell, chill out, just chill out. And like,
oh really? I didn't get that part.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what I got.
I got do the work and be focused. Like, I feel like it's the opposite of chill out.
I think let me correct that. Okay. It's after that work is done and just chill out with everything. Yes, get the work done so you can just have a happy life. And he's basically saying, here are the steps that you need to take, and you have to do it because everybody has this work to do. Everybody is working on shit.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I like that he just says universally life is difficult, because I think it's just comforting to know we're all going through stuff.
All the time.
It's like everybody has challenges. Like, I think I did a show last night where I did a show last night where I wasn't happy really with my performance. It wasn't a normal stand-up show. It was kind of like a different kind of show. And I just felt like I was beating myself up about it for no reason, because it just really didn't matter. And I was talking to another comic about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know why I'm just so hard on myself. And he was like, I am too. And I was like, really? You don't seem like you are. He's like, yeah, I really am. And then I realized like we're all neurotic, and we all have issues that we're not saying out loud to people. And I think just knowing that is comforting.
Yeah. We're all like that. I had a weird show the other night too, and the same thing. I was beating myself up.
Yeah.
And it is. Life is difficult, but it's only as difficult as you make it.
Right.
And it's only as difficult as you make it with the thoughts that you believe.
Right.
And so I guess that would be the takeaway from all this. Do you believe that it's already
What?
I know.
That flew by. Wow.
I know. I just looked at the thing. I thought we'd been talking for 20 minutes.
I know, me too. Crazy.
Whatever. Wow.
Whatever. I want to know the other books that you've done on the podcast. Is there like a list? You should write up you should type up a list so that people can just see it for.
Yeah, just see. That's a really good idea. Yeah. Let's see if my procrastination efforts are going to actually do that. But that's a really good idea. Like on the iTunes, you can see the books, but I think it would be cool. Like I don't have a website on this yet. I don't even have a Facebook page yet, but I'm building it, and I do need help with all of that stuff. And it's like gradual baby step processes in building the podcast and even my stand-up stuff. And I'm just starting all of it. And, it's all really cool. It's a really fun time, but it's also super scary if I think in the same way that I've been thinking, which is it's all here. And I start to beat myself up. But if I take it little steps at a time, it's really a lot easier. And like be nice to myself.
Right.
And like surrounding myself with awesome people like you.
Aww,
and stuff like that.
Likewise. You have such a good positive energy about you.
Thanks. Wait until you leave. No, I'm kidding. I'll be playing my guitar and crying, singing the blues. No, I'm kidding. I won't. Okay, so where can people find you on social media?
I'm on everything. I'm at Erica Rhodes on Twitter. And
how is your name spelled?
ERICARHODES.
Okay, cool. Oh, and this is funny because the roads less traveled, huh?
I wasn't even thinking of that. Yeah, the roads less traveled. It could be my stand-up special.
I think it should be. Oh my God, that's totally cool. We just figured out her stand-up special. Well, thank you for coming on. Everybody, please go if you're in Los Angeles, if you're in the area, go check out the late night comedy show at Open Space. It's the last Monday of every month, like I said before. And thank you so much for doing the show.
Thanks for having me.
It was really fun.
It was really fun.
I know. Yay. Bye, guys.
She's fine. She's fine.
It's Dragon Wagon.